In the dark where the strange things flicker, Jennifer Hicks takes you in a little deeper.
Cryptids, UFOs, stories that chill, the truth's out there, and she's got the thrill. Welcome to creepy culture,
Where the unknown comes alive.
Hey, welcome to Creepy Culture. It's Jen, and thanks for being here. Today I got Jason. Jason, I don't want to mispronounce your last name. Sorry.
What's the best way to describe Seig,
Got it.
like a cigarette. Go smoke a cig.
And Sig. So he's coming on today, and he's going to be sharing with us some of his encounters that he's had with paranormal and some other things, like a Class B encounter and such. So um, you're welcome to take it over, Jason.
Okay. Oh well, where to start? I feel like I'm all over the board with some things. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I listen to some podcasts and I'm like, man, these guys got some stories that you just did this kind of stuff really happen to them. Luckily, I don't think mine's all too fantastical, or if that's the even appropriate word. I think I'm gonna start off with my paranormal encounters. Um, these range probably. I'm going to go with. I suck at years, so please apologize. I mean, I forget people's birthdays like no tomorrow.
No worries.
So we're going to go with starting in probably like 2009, 2010. Um, there was a group of us. Actually, it started off as four of us. It was me, one of my exes. Um, well, she was a high school ex. One of my work partners and his wife. He's like, "Hey, would you guys like to go do a Gettysburg battlefield tour, and then we'll go get dinner, and then we'll go back at night, and we'll do a little ghost hunting." I was like, "You know what? That's pretty cool." I watched all the ghost hunters and all that stuff, so I was like, not really expecting anything to happen. So we go down. At that point, we were going down anytime during the warmer months because we were a bunch of sissies. But we'd go out toward the battlefield. He's very well versed in the entire Battle of Gettysburg, and then we'd go out to eat dinner and come back to the battlefield at night. So, like I think the first place that we went out to was the Triangular Field. Let me back up a little bit for your listeners that might not be familiar with Gettysburg Battle. It was July 1st through the 3rd, 1863. Obviously, the Union Army, Confederate Army converged in the town of Gettysburg, and it was actually an accidental battle. Started off as a small skirmish and turned into one of the largest battles of the Civil War. There was over 51,000. There was over 51,000 killed, missing, captured over those 3 days, with over 3,000 Union soldiers killed and almost 4,000 Confederate soldiers killed. And then I also learned that there was anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 horses and mules killed, just because people do relate that they hear phantom horses and stuff. A lot of people say, due to the immense suffering and loss during the war or during the battle, that they consider Gettysburg to be one of the most haunted areas around. So our first trip in there was what was called the Triangular Field. It's northwest of the Devil's Den. That battle was apparently about a 2-hour battle on the second day of the entire skirmish, and had a lot of close quarter battles or hand to hand combat. So we went in there probably, I want to say, late evening. I mean, the sun was coming down. Wasn't a lot of people in the battlefield. We made our way into the battlefield, and probably, I'd say may have only been 50 yards into the triangular field, and I started smelling tobacco smoke, like good old fashioned grandpa's pipe tobacco. I was like, man, my God, you guys smell this. And they got close to me. They could smell it. We were the only ones in the field. The Devil's Den is within eyesight, but there's no breeze going on. There was nobody else on the field prior to us that there should have been any of that odor hanging around. Like I said, they all smelled it. We continued on. Stood there, took a couple pictures, nothing major. We then heard what sounded like musket fire. And I was like, "Did you guys hear that?" They're like, "Yeah, that was pretty cool." Now it was very faint. Now, being the critical thinker I am, I'm like, okay, we are on the battlefield. Could there be any reenactors possibly firing off their weapon? It's possible, but there was no reenactment scheduled, and it didn't sound close enough to where we were that it was just very faint and distant. So you can take that one way or another. Was it real? Was it um, paranormal related? Take that whichever way you want. We went with the paranormal related because there are reports of phantom musket fire and stuff. So that was all we really had for that one. Um, I think it was the following year we decided to change it up to Halloween, add in that creep factor, added some more people in. I think this was a group of 8 that time. Same thing, walk around the battlefield during the day, go to dinner, and go back out to the battlefield that night. We went to a place called, it was Spangler Springs, which is right below Culp's Hill, where another battle took place. There's an observation tower on there. We all decided to climb the observation tower, and we're sitting there, and the historian friend of mine came up and started talking about an alleged ghost woman in white, I think it is, which, you know, every state, every city, sort of got every town has a woman in white.
Mm-hmm.
The odd part about that, within about 10 seconds of him starting that story, we heard what sounded like hard soled shoes walking on the observation tower below us.
Ooh.
So we're hanging out, like we're literally hanging out. You know, is there anybody down there? No cars had pulled up. We were the only ones in that area, and I was sitting there listening. Okay, could it be something banging? It really wasn't breezy enough to get anything banging, and it's a metal observation tower, so really anything banging against each other should have had that metallic sound to it. No metallic sound, just the distinct sound of hard-soled shoes walking on the metal platform.
Oh.
All right, cool. I swear we had we caught that on audio. I if we did, I don't remember what happened to it. Maybe that was so dang long ago. On to the next year, we go back out, and same thing over again. We go back up to Culp's Hill, and well, maybe this was 2012. I got to think about that one. No, that was not 2012. So anyway, we're back at Culp's Hill. My friend Patrick's like, "Hey, let's walk down this trail here. This will take us down to where the skirmish lines were, down into the woods. There's a lot of boulders down in there." and he said supposedly there's a lot of paranormal activity down in there, or reports of it. So we go walking down in. My daughter, I'm trying to think how old she probably was at the time. She might have been 9. Uh, she thought she saw like shadows of people between the trees, bouncing between trees, over by the rock boulders. Patrick had headed over towards the boulders, and then he had come back, and I had heard something. I don't remember what it was. I did. It is on my YouTube page. Um, if anyone goes, just looks up my name. It's on my YouTube page. It says Culps Hill EVP. But I remember questioning Patrick. I was like, "Was that you or something like that?" And you hear him say no, and then right after, I think it's right after he says no, you hear a very distinct, otherworldly, disembodied voice. It's no, just a little drawn out. I did loop it 3 times on that, so if anyone listens to that, they should be able to hear that. That was all we got on that one. So then the following year, which I know was 2012, because my father had passed away, I was supposed to go. I was supposed to go hang out with some friends and a girl that I had met online in Missouri. And when my father passed away, she decided to come to Pennsylvania. We already had plans to do this ghost hunt, but I was like, no, we shouldn't. And everyone's like, you should try to do this to hang out with friends, to not be so focused on my dad's death. So we go and we end up back at Culps Hill again. That's usually the last place that we would stop. We were walking down through that general same area, and the girl that I was I don't even know if we were officially dating yet, but she like jumps and like, what was that about? She said, "Did you grab my hand?" No. She said, "Well, someone touched my butt." How, anybody? There's no trees, so she swears someone touched her butt. So we ended up walking back up. Went down one of the other trails. We're taking pictures. Plenty of orbs showing up, but I count those off. I mean, we're in the woods, dusty. Everyone's walking around, so I don't really count those. So one of the other group guys come up from down one of the other trails, and he says, "But dude, man, there's some weird jazz going on down there." I'm like, "Oh, man, what's going on?" He's like, "Our cameras ain't working, and it just feels weird." Explain weird. Are you just are you chickening out, or what? Because we're not really using flashlights. He says, "No, the air feels staticky, electrified." I was like, "I'm game. Let's go."
Right.
So me, my 2 kids, and my friend Patrick again, we all start heading down there. I was in the lead, and we're walking down, and they had explained it was about halfway between the top of the hill down to where the skirmish line was. And I come around a very slight bend, and it was literally like walking into a the air was heavy but yet felt electrified. Like I could feel my goosebumps. My hair was standing up. It just not quite staticky, but you just felt the energy coming through you. And I was like, "Ooh, ooh, whoa!" And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Y'all don't feel that?" Because they had stopped just prior to me stopping, and they're like, "No, we don't feel nothing." I'm like, "This is uncomfortable." And Patrick's like, "Dude, let me get a picture." He pulls out the camera, and he had just switched the batteries after we were taking the pictures at the top. Goes to turn it on, immediately shuts off. He's like,
Oh.
"What the hell?" Tries it again, turns off. Pulls out a new battery, puts it in, turns off. I was like, "You know what? Okay, I'm starting to feel a little too uncomfortable with this. And Patrick's like, yeah, let's go ahead and head back up. He turns around and he just jumps and screams. And I was like, dude, what the hell was that? He's like, I swear to God, as soon as I turned around, there was somebody standing right behind me. I'm like, all right, we're gone. All right, you guys. And I was like, wait a minute, where's my kids? They're already hauling ass. They're they're gone. I'm like, oh, thanks, guys. Lead me to the bad guys. So we got to the top, and we were like, that was fantastic. Nothing was working. I wish we could have gotten something, some kind of proof. Maybe there could have been, I don't know, ectoplasm on the camera if they would have worked. Or I never even thought about turning my phone on because my phone then had voice recorder. I can't find it on these new ones if they even have it to catch an EVP or something. EVP. So and then after I moved, they had continued going to the battlefield, but eventually, once COVID start, I think it was right around COVID shut everything down, and then the Park Service decided for whatever reason no more night visitors. So that squashed everything, which was a disappointment. So in the meantime, I had moved out to Missouri in January of 2013. I decided, you know what, I need a new change. I need to get away from. I lived in Pennsylvania. So I needed to just get away from Pennsylvania. I had gone through a divorce. My dad had died. My dad and I were both first responders with the same volunteer fire company or volunteer ambulance company. We were both employed at the same place, paid. So everywhere that I looked, like, dude, I ran a call with dad. We had a bad crash here. It was just everywhere because I've been a first responder since I was 15, and I'm 51 now. I don't remember how old I was at that point. So, like, I'm gonna move and start a new life. Move with this girl, and I got to backpedal again. Prior to moving down there, we would talk a lot on the phone. A lot is an understatement. So one day I'd called her and we were talking to each other for whatever was going on. I know her friend was there. She was living with her at the time, her and her son, because she was going through a divorce. We were talking about something. I don't remember what it was. And over the phone line, I hear, did you hear what I'm saying? Or no, I'm sorry. Did you hear what I said? And it was a woman's voice, but it was very faint, sounded a little older. And I said to my girlfriend, I said, well, you didn't say anything. What do you mean? Did you hear what I said? She goes, I didn't say that. I said, well, then who the hell said it? She goes, well, I don't know. I said, well, did your friend say anything? She goes, no, she's at the other end of the house there packing up or unpacking some stuff. Okay, well, that's odd. So we continued our conversation on and talked about what their day was going, and her friend's son was in the bathroom getting a bath. Well, she had called me later the next day. She said, you remember you had said about you heard that voice? Yeah. So I, didn't think much of it. Maybe I thought, maybe phones, I know phones used to bleed together. I know those of us that are old enough can remember the cordless phone picking up our neighbor's conversation somehow.
Yeah.
Kids will never understand the joy of listening into the neighbor's conversation.
No doubt.
But I was like, yeah. She said, well, Ben was in the bathtub and he was talking. So his mom went in and just figured he was talking to himself. And she said, honey, who are you talking to? And he says, well, that old lady over there sitting there by the toilet or standing there by the toilet. She's, yeah, okay. Just chalk that up to kids' imagination. Now, I know I've paid enough attention over the years with paranormal shows, reading books, whatever, that they say kids are so much more prone to seeing
Mm-hmm.
ghosts, spirits, whatever, because they don't understand that we're telling them they're not real. I think it's what I'm probably saying this wrong, but they don't understand that what they're seeing is they're not supposed to be seeing. After we get told enough that crap's not real, we don't see it. So I was like, okay, well, this is getting interesting. And the girl had said to me about some other stuff. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, you know what? Let me get a paranormal investigative group to come in, check the house out, put your mind at ease. So I did some researching around, found this group over there. I don't even know if they're still up. I think they were called the Cape Paranormal Group or something like that. They came in. They were there for a couple hours one night, did whatever it was they did. They contacted me and said, "Man, we really didn't have anything happen. Doesn't mean that there's not anything going on. Maybe this spirit's just not comfortable with us being here, doesn't want to manifest itself, whatever. But we can't discount what you said." Okay, no problem. Thanks for checking it out. So eventually I move out there, living at the house. There was always something odd going on. Maybe a light was left on. And again, everyone likes to leave lights on. No big deal. So one night I think we had come home from work, and we stayed up late because we worked 2 to 10. Um, we had got her son. I'm trying to think how old he was at the time. He was under 2 years of age. I know at that point we decided to stay up. We were watching, oh, I don't remember. It was a movie, where John Travolta ends up playing a baby.
Hmm.
It's very old. I can picture it because I think or was it Bruce Willis? Heck, I don't know. I don't remember. Shiny metal object. Um, so she's like, hey, she's like, can you get him a drink? I was like, yeah. So I go out to the kitchen, get a drink out of the refrigerator, and I hear this very faint but distinct humming. Well, that's not me. And it reminded you of old Meemaw standing at the sink, washing dishes, just humming away or cooking dinner. Only lasted a couple seconds, but I know what I heard. I wasn't smoking nothing, wasn't drinking nothing. I know what I heard. So I go into the back into the bedroom. I said, "Were they just humming on the TV?" No. Why? Nothing. Why?
Hmm.
Um, I just heard some humming. What do you mean you heard humming? So she's thinking maybe somebody outside. I'm like, I was in the kitchen and I heard a woman in a woman's voice tone humming. So that scared her a little bit. Um, Other than that, I never heard any disembodied voices, never had anything touch me or whatever. So then things started picking up a little bit. We'd head out for the day, head to work, go grocery shopping, go whatever, go somewhere, come home, the stereo's on. Now, this is, again, all of us older people, we always had a stereo, CD player type stereo, the big ones, boom boxes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was turned on, and I was like, "Did you have the radio on?" No. All right, turn it off. No big deal. And it was happening quite often. Well, then we'd be sitting there watching TV, and I'd see like a little flash at the stereo and look over, and it would power itself on, and to control the volume was a knob. You actually had to turn it. It wasn't a button. So it's not like anything was sticking. The volume would go up,
Hmm.
but the knob was not turning, but the volume would go up. Not horribly loud. All right, enough of that. Turn it off. So that happened a lot. So then one day I was at work. She was not at work. She was at home with her son. And she calls me and she's emotional and panicked. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, Colt, he, slow down. What's going on? She said, I heard a loud bang in his bedroom. And next thing you know, he's screaming. And she goes, I panicked because I thought he fell out of his crib. I guess she had him laid down for a nap. She goes, I go in the room. He's standing at the crib just screaming. Okay, well, what was the bang? She said, the rocking chair was flipped. Okay. I was like, he probably grabbed the rocking chair, pulled it too hard close to him, got it to flip forward. I just set the rocking chair back up exactly where it's at. It's not in reach of him. There's no way he could have reached that. Still thinking somehow maybe he used something to grab hold of it, pulled it back way too close to him, and then when it slipped completely, went forward and landed. I pulled that thing back as far as it would go. I let go of it, and it did not flip. The only way it flipped is if I would have literally gave it that extra push to get it to flip. And okay, now things are getting a little too squirrely. Now you're messing with the kid. He refused to go back in that room. So whether he was awake and saw something or the banging of the chair scared him, it took us weeks to get him back in that room. So eventually I just got fed up with that. Was the turning point that I was fed up with. You want to mess with me, you want to hum, that's fine. Obviously you were here before I was. You consider this your house, but don't F with the kid.
Right.
And maybe it really wasn't messing with the kid to scare it. Maybe it used too much energy to get out of the chair. I don't know how spirits work. Caused the chair to flip. But eventually I was like, I had literally, after the radio turned on one time, we were sitting there watching TV. I got up, stood up, put my foot down, and said, look, if you want to live here, you are free to live here. Just tone it down a little bit. Do stuff when we're not here. Stop messing with the radio, turn it up, and please don't mess with the kid. Or I said, I will have someone come in and exercise your ass out of my house. And surprisingly, after that, things had calmed down. I really am surprised about that. We ended up having to move out of that house shortly after. That happened from 2013 to 2015. We had to move to a house a little further south in 2015. I did try to find out if anyone had ever passed away in that house, who the previous owners were. And this is a very rural backwoods. Trying to get records from anything is a pain in the butt.
Right.
But the neighbors had said they are pretty sure the previous owner, they knew she passed away, but they couldn't tell us if she passed away at the house, at a hospital, or whatever. I was like, okay, well, guess she's still attached to the house. That's fine. We're not there anymore. Some of my paranormal stuff still continued with. We both worked in the nursing home. It was the only nursing home for the entire county. Fairly small nursing home. About, I think our bed count was the highest we could take would be 95 residents. Dang near every resident in that nursing home was from the county. So they all went to school with each other, grew up together, went to church, married into the family. Like everybody knew everybody. So there was always, everyone had talked, oh, you got to watch out for the shadows. Okay. The shadows at the nursing home. Until we started seeing the shadows. You would see a shadow dart back from room to room when you're down the hallway. Most, especially at night, because, we have the lights turned down. I just played them off as a trick of the eye. The hall that I worked on was it was the rehab hall. So all of my residents that would come in were generally in there for a short period of time to get rehab, to either go home, hip fractures, long bone fractures, whatever, till they could get better, go home. A couple of them were permanent residents that were, I don't want to say stuck on that hallway, but that was their preferred hall, and that's where they would stay. We had a lot of residents pass away in my 9 years there. So I believe in a lot of they die there, they're going to stay there. Maybe they're staying there because they considered that place their home and everyone there their family, or whatever. But we would have, and it happened on my hall and one other hall several times, call lights go off in the middle of the night when there's nobody in that room. So you know what a call light is.
Yeah.
Need the nurse clicking.
Yeah, exactly.
So initially, I was like, okay, it must have fallen off the counter, must have come undone from the curtain there that separates the two beds. I'd go in there, turn it off, and it's still hanging on the curtain. I'm like, okay, y'all knock it off. I'm not scared of you. Ooh. Occasionally, well, not as much occasionally. I know at least one time down my hall, one of my favorite residents, she passed away pretty suddenly and unexpectedly. We knew she was sick, but she made that turn. She went from talking like you and I to rapidly passing away within an hour. I mean, it took about an hour to happen. But so I think I was off that weekend. We come back in that next week, and my shift was still 2 to 10. And everyone's in bed. I got the lights turned down, and I'm standing there at the computer charting all my residents, and I hear this straight out of her room in her voice, but very faint, "Help me," which she was very famous of saying "help me" all the time. There was nothing ever wrong with her, but that's what she would do that. I was like, y'all, I just heard, I don't want to say her name. I'll say Miss Jane. I said, y'all, I just heard Miss Jane. They're like, you did not. I did. I never heard it again. Another gentleman there who was passing away had said he would, I don't know if it was his inner demons or if he was actually seeing stuff, but he would tell us that he was hearing babies in the wall, babies crying in the wall. We didn't hear any of that, but I took him for his word. I don't like that. He had a bit of a sketchy past, so maybe it was his inner demons haunting him with whatever. I don't know. And then the other one was up the Blue Hall. There was always talk of a shadow that would go into room, I think it was 15, would come in the room, make a right into the bathroom. Not every night, but pretty frequently. I was like, yeah, okay. And then they moved a new resident in there. And next thing you know, he's ringing his light. He's like, dude, somebody just come in my room and walked into that bathroom. Well, there's nobody up. So then it happened again. He's like, I want out of this room. I'm going. He refused to go back in that room. So after that, I believed that he saw the shadow dude doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really all I got for the paranormal. I do have one UFO encounter. If you guys would like to hear that one.
I do want to hear it.
Well, I have always been a believer in UFOs, Sasquatch, Loch Ness. I watch Tubi all the time. So over my years, I've like, oh, look, it's a UFO. Oh, no, it's an airplane. Never had any kind of sighting that I've seen. Always looking. I'm always looking at the sky. One, just because I enjoy the stars Northern Lights, whatever, in the hopes that I'm going to catch something. So I had moved back from Missouri to Pennsylvania. I was living in a firehouse just because it was cheap. Don't judge everybody. It was you know what? I saved up $20,000 in 2 years, only having to pay for groceries, a phone bill, and car insurance. It was cool. Eventually, I met a girl, TikTok of all places. We started talking, and eventually, I came down here. Here being Lexington, North Carolina. I would travel down here every other weekend, always eyed at the sky, but every other weekend, travel back and forth until, okay, we're going to progress this on. I think we'll start dating. So we started dating. Um, I don't remember the year. I discussed this on a different podcast, and I want to say, God, late 22, early 23. Could have been just completely 23. I don't remember. But it was, I'd come down and we may have gone out to eat. We were driving around the county. She was showing me different places. And we were coming off one of the side roads from the county into the town of Lexington. And we were pulling up to it was either a red light or a stop sign. Don't remember which one. And it was a time of night, I want to say 8, 9 o'clock, because that's why I want to say it was late. It was fallish time. Down here, it doesn't get as cold until after New Year's. It might start getting pretty cold in December. But it was rainy that night, more of a misty, very low banked clouds. So if anyone's familiar, you get into the big cities, you get all the city light pollution. You see those low banked clouds like right over the city. And we're sitting there at the red light or stop sign, whichever. She's driving, and I'm just dilly-dallying, looking out the window, and I just looked up. And I said, what the hell is that? In my head. And I looked back up, and what I could see, it was in the clouds. Like there was a thinning out of the clouds. 3 lights or 3 circles that reminded me of the best way I described it on the other one, and the best way I can still describe it would be take a 2x4, paint it black, and put 3 puck lights on it. And they weren't really, either they weren't illuminated, or if they were illuminated, they were very dim, giving out that almost like dim enough that you know what car tail lights look like in fog.
Mhm.
You can tell they're there, but they're not that bright. And I'm just looking at this, and we're not moving. It's not. Now, the city of Lexington it's not a big city. There's no big skyscrapers. I think maybe the biggest building that I remember seeing 6 stories, and we weren't even close to that. And I'm just looking at this, and we weren't there very long, but it's not moving. I've been a first responder since I was 15 years old. I've seen all types of aircraft. My brother-in-law was in the military. We went down for the Air Force. We went down and hung out at the Air Force Base once. He gave me a tour. I saw all types of military aircraft. There's nothing stationary that should have those lights on. If it would have been a helicopter, I should have been able to hear it. That low, I should have been able to feel it, especially if it was something as big as a Chinook. I have no idea what this was. It still racks my brain. She said to me, she's like, "What are you looking at?" And with us having just started dating, I was like, I'm just checking out the town. I don't want her to think I'm crazy. Oh yeah, this guy I just met, he's seeing effing UFOs up in the sky. What a winner I picked. And we made a right-hand turn into the town, and that was it. And I didn't really, I don't think I told anybody about it. I don't even think I told my kids about it until I talked with Dano back in December about it. And it still racks my brain. I have no idea what that could be other than some kind of unidentified aerial phenomenon. Like there's nothing, like we don't even have a real airport. We have a regional airport, which is only flying out very small aircraft. The county above me that I work in, they have some bigger aircraft, and then same with the surrounding counties. And then you got Charlotte, like 45 minutes south of me. But still, there shouldn't be anything out there that's just hovering in the clouds. I don't know. I don't know.
UFO, for sure.
That's all that I can. And it racks my brain. Like I want to say that I saw a UFO. I consider it my first UFO. I'm glad it wasn't some kind of scary experience that end up having lost time, or end up getting probed or whatever they say they do. But what I like about it, that it wasn't, you get some of these people or some of these videos, and nowadays you can't tell what's real or what's not because every fool's putting AI up there.
I know. Hate that.
But it wasn't there was no flashy lights on it. There was absolutely no that. Then that's why I know it wasn't a standard aircraft. Being in a cloud bank like that, there should have been some kind of identifying wing markers, tail markers. The flashing lights, the reds, the green landing lights. There was nothing. And even if there had been a strobe going up there, I should have seen the strobe. So that is it for that. Yeah, I can tell you what my grandmother had told me about her and my uncle's Sasquatch thing if you want.
Sure, I want to hear about that too.
Okay. So again, I have always believed. I think I started my belief in the big guy after probably everybody else our age with Leonard Nimoy and In Search Of.
Right.
That was always the big one, and I think they even did stories about him on that old creepy Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack. We were all terrified of that show in the day. So my grandmother, I remember, and I don't know how old I was, but I remember her telling me about a story when I called her my Aunt Bets. She was really just a family friend, but we were all so close. She was my aunt. They had gone camping at a campground called Gifford Pinchot State Park, which is in York, Pennsylvania. Time of year, I don't know. I want to say it was probably the warmer months, but they were down there camping. I believe it was in her pop-up. And this campground had I want to call it two sections. When you went in past the ranger station, there was a section that was off on one side of the lake. It kind of went back there, circled, and then met with the road and come back, all lined with campers. And then you go down to the next road, and it did kind of like one giant circle up in there. So they were in the first section. I never liked that first section. Either before she told me or after, there's something about that section of the campground I did not like. It just gave me the creeps, and I don't know why. But so she was back there, and it was her and my Aunt Bets. There may have been one or two more campers in that general area, but she said they were out at the fire one night and they heard some kind of vocalization off in the distance, like a howling that they initially thought was maybe dogs or cows mooing. I don't remember. But she said as the night went on, over a short period of time, you could hear this getting closer and closer to them. And as it got closer, you would hear the dogs in the area barking. And then the dogs would silence. And it got close enough over that time that it creeped them out, and they decided, hey, we're going in the camper. This is creepy. So they remember being in the camper, and they continued to hear this getting closer. And then they said, like, everything got quiet. They said the insects got quiet. They didn't hear any of the night birds. The dogs had stopped barking, the frog, like everything. And she said they heard one more scream. And then a few minutes later, they heard what sounded like heavy feet running through the campground. Just the thud, 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 and went past them on the left side of the lake. Several minutes later, they heard more screaming in the distance, and then everything was done. So they were like, well, we have no idea what that was. They were still kind of attributing it to maybe a fox. So at some point after that, she said they went to I just called it a Bigfoot conference. And I have no idea what year this would have been. I don't know when they started doing those things, but I guess at this conference they played. At that point, they probably considered it alleged audio of Sasquatch vocalization, and one of the ones that they played, she said, was so eerily similar to what they had heard that her and my aunt looked at each other and they both felt like they were going to pee themselves and said, oh my God, we heard Bigfoot. So I just believed her. I mean, mom was telling me a story, you heard a monster. And over the years, as I was growing up, I've read stories of alleged sightings down in there. The BFRO has, I think, 2 or 3 reported sightings on their page in that, I'm guessing, would have been in that general time frame. I believe when this happened was either right after or right before I was born. So that would have been in that right time frame. And then there is a Native American legend of, I can't remember what they're called, but the Germans called them apple snatchers. I can't remember the name of them, but they were supposed to be located just below York County, along the Susquehanna River, along a place called Chickies Rock. And Native Americans describe them as 4-foot-ish tall, hairy, usually pranksters more than anything else. So I always took it as, okay, Mama saw Bigfoot. Cool. When can I see one? Hasn't happened yet. But she did tell me then about her uncle, or not, correction, my uncle, which was her brother. They lived side by side in a town called Enola, which is across from the capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, right along the Susquehanna River. Enola is I don't want to call it it's a railroad. It's an old railroad town. There's a big railroad hub there, and pretty sure back when this happened, it was not even near as populated as it is now. A lot of farms and stuff. But according to her, he was fishing down along a creek called the Connedaguinet. It is a tributary of the Susquehanna, and I want to say it was down Center Street that she went. Anyway, he's down walking along the creek trying to get back to a decent fishing spot, and he told her that he smelled something rotten. I don't know his age. I don't know if he was late teens, 20s, whatever. but he was expecting to either find maybe a dead deer or a deceased person. That's how bad it smelled.
Mm.
And as he's walking along the thick stuff, trying to get to the spot, he said some big hairy dude jumped up out of the bushes and tore off up the hill. Now the hills in that general area, you must be a really good athlete to tear off, because these are good 40, probably a good 40 plus feet, and I don't want to say straight up and down, but they have a pretty high angle. So no one's just tearing straight up these hills. Um, I would imagine most anyone, if you're going to walk along those banks and hills to get to the top from the creek bottom, you're going to be using a pre-made trail or a game trail from the deer or something. But she told me, he said, "Nope, that's it. I'm out." Grabbed his tackle and headed to the car. I know he was a cop for, I think it was Enola before it became like East Pennsboro Township Police Department or whatever. But he was a cop back in the day, and I remember asking him. Well, I wanted to know about what he experienced, and he wouldn't tell me. He's like, "Don't worry about it. Nothing. Just a homeless guy." And I pressed him, but he would not tell me. And I'm assuming he did not want to say due to being due either it happening due to him going to be a cop or an officer at that time and didn't want to ruin his credibility with the officer.
Right.
I mean, if you say you see a UFO, that's one thing. Everyone says you're crazy. That's the next thing you say Bigfoot, and everyone thinks you're even more crazy. So
Right.
I don't blame him. I have no reason to doubt him or my grandmother, but especially his. I mean, if he didn't want to talk about it, to me, that's screaming you saw something that you believe was probably Bigfoot before, and just don't want it to ruin your credibility. I mean, he's long passed away now. They both have, but yeah,
That was a Bigfoot, probably.
that's. I mean, there are. If you get into BFRO, you see some reported sightings, Dauphin County, which is across the river, Cumberland. The thing I don't like about the I don't believe, there's no way. I mean, there has to be more documented sightings than what BFRO is either
Mm-hmm.
reporting or people just aren't telling them. I
Right.
know some of the other podcasts I listen to, they believe it's a conspiracy with the BFRO. They're withholding certain ones. I mean, Pennsylvania is a very, I don't want to say very rural, but um, I know back then, I mean, it was even more rural. A lot of farmland, especially Cumberland County, there was a lot more farmland than it is now. And even where I lived up in Perry County, which is the next county over, it's very rural with big towns throughout the county. And then the further out in the west of the county you go, it's straight up state game lands. And then you keep going farther north up towards New York. I mean, it's nothing but woods and mountains. So there has to be more out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Um, the one place you were talking about, Gifford Pinchot, that
Yeah,
place is it's notorious for Bigfoot sightings. So it's
I don't
definitely one of those.
I don't that like ever since that she had told me that story, that place has always creeped me out.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just like I and this was back, you know, when I'm obviously when I was a kid, even in my earlier teens, you know, you could tell you can go camping and say, "Y'all go have fun for the day," and we'd go out walk along the lake. I could go fishing all day. You can't do that now because you can't trust people. You can't even trust kids. But
Right.
walking along that lake, I'd walk the nature trail there, and it would just give me the creeps. Um, and that wasn't even the side that really creeped me out. I wouldn't even ride my bike over onto that side. I don't even think we camped over there ever again. In all honesty, we always stayed on the opposite side of the lake. Um, but the walk from the actual campground over to what we called the day use area, where they had the boat rentals and stuff, that trail back in there just it creeped me out. I don't know if I'm, expecting to see Bigfoot stick his head out around a tree or some knife wielding serial killer, but there was just something
Right.
that creeped me out. It didn't like it. I can't even tell you the last time I was at that campground in all honesty.
Um,
But yeah,
anytime anytime I get the creeps, I sure pay attention to them, whether it's in a house, the woods, doesn't matter. Around a person, if I get the creeps and my hair stands up, I'm like, what?
it's been a while. My friends make fun of me because they're like, "What are you listening to?" I was like, "Oh, I'm listening to all types of different podcasts. Bigfoot, Dogman, people talking about the rakes, skinwalkers." And they're like, "Well, do you listen all the time?" I said, "Yeah, I even listen when I'm sitting down in the woods hunting." They're like, "So you're
Exactly.
walking down in the woods in the dark, hearing about creatures that might want to kill you?" Yep.
Hmm.
I highly doubt I'm going to see anything in my neck of the woods here. There's not been that I've been able to research any kind of. I don't think there's been any Bigfoot sightings here in this area of North Carolina. The last one I saw was something up in the county above, and maybe many years ago, way down at the south end of our county. Could it happen? It could, but I'm more worried
Hmm.
about running into a coyote or a really ticked off raccoon than anything.
Right. Um, yeah, I didn't think anything like that would ever happen to me too in my little normal hiking place, but it did. So just after 20 years of hiking in the same place, you know?
I do have my head on a swivel when we go out hiking. Generally, there's so many people. The two places that we go down here, I don't think I'd ever see anything. If there would be a Sasquatch in the area, I don't see him being that curious when there's probably 50 to 100 people walking up and down these trails. But um, I do hope, as much as I've gone out to drive the Blue Ridge Parkway, because I've done the entire Blue Ridge from the Virginia line all the way down to I think I've completed the North Carolina, so the entire section. Uh, I'm always looking out in the fields, especially towards evening. One for deer, and two maybe to glimpse the big guy because I have heard there's quite a few sightings out in the western end of the county there, and I have wondered um, after Helene came through, was anything found? Did anyone, government or whoever, find the body of Sasquatch that got taken away? I mean, that place got devastated. I was out there the day after it happened with my EMS team, so we saw a lot of different stuff. So I can imagine something could have happened.
Government would get that. So,
Oh yeah, I know that's a hot topic with a lot of different podcasters. Some saying they don't believe the government knows anything, and I think those that feel that way are in a very small cube. I mean,
mhm.
I 100% believe the government has. I believe the government knows of them,
Mhm.
has encountered alive or dead ones. People are, well, why didn't the government tell you? Because it'll go against the narrative of how we've learned about our history.
Exactly.
It will
Yep.
throw. That's why they won't disclose um, aliens, because it will go everything that we have been taught. It will throw religion into turmoil.
Yep.
Although I do feel that our culture nowadays, for the most part, would be pretty accepting of things. In fact, think a lot of people in the world right now would be like, please come take us, get us out of here.
Mhm. You're exactly right. It destroys their narrative, and I'm not even on the narrative of them saying Bigfoot's an ape. I don't believe that at all. So that's just my opinion, though. I don't think they're an ape.
Well, back in the day, yeah, I'm thinking he's a giant ape-like creature. I mean, obviously, he's still kind of ape-like. But the more and more podcasts that I listen to, the more and more documentaries that I watch, I really believe it is a sentient being.
Hmm.
I mean, you listen to the, I'll make sure I got is Jeff Melbourne? Is he the one with the Sierra Sounds? I think it
Oh
is.
no, that's Ron Moorhead.
Yes, that's sorry about that. But yeah, you listen to those and like there's conversations.
Right, they
Like
have language.
they have language. They're curious. They know how to open up doors. They have a curiosity about the human race that they will sit there and watch you and investigate us. Um, do I believe that some of them are aggressive? Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, especially a lot of the stories that I've heard about the ones in Alaska can be very aggressive, and
Hmm.
those stories are coming from the Native Americans.
Hmm.
Um, but do I think they're all aggressive? No, and I don't know how much I I've not really, I don't want to call it dive into the rabbit hole. I've not fallen into the rabbit hole of them being interdimensional creatures and um, I don't even. I keep hearing everyone say about woo. I don't understand what woo means as much as I've listened, but um,
I'll explain it to you when we get
okay.
done.
Um, but I do believe that there are odd things happening. People do report seeing a Sasquatch and a UFO within a day of each other or at the same time. Odd
Hmm.
lighting.
But you got to admit that they want to call it an ape or make you assume it's an ape, but it doesn't even act like an animal in any kind of way.
No,
It acts like
no,
a human. So,
yeah. And is it an unevolved? Are we an offshoot of that somehow from alien intervention or vice versa? Uh,
could be. You never know.
the only way I think I don't believe that we will ever. I don't believe that there will ever be. It will ever be proven that he is real without a body. And I'm not saying I want someone to go out and take one out, but I also believe if a body is found, the government's going to swoop in and take it before.
Hmm. Exactly.
And the other reason I feel that it's not. Hold on, I was thinking about this earlier. For whatever reason, I feel if it is proven to be real, someone's going to want to put one in a damn zoo, and you can't put a sentient being in a zoo. And I really feel someone's going to want to do that. We need to protect the species. Dude, they've been protected. If
Hmm.
they are out there, and I do believe they are, they are. They know how to protect themselves. They live wherever they live, caves, just regular in the woods, creating their structures wherever they go. If they zap off into another dimension and they're only coming in here to say, like, "What's up, y'all?" Um,
They are
I don't know.
protected. They really are by national parks.
Well, you're not wrong there because
Mhm.
Teddy Roosevelt. I mean,
Exactly.
he came back with that story about the um, frontiersman he encountered that his
Hmm.
partner was apparently. tore up. So that I have thought about the national parks are a literal Bigfoot preserve
Mm-hmm. That's what I
on the
think
government.
too. Again, just my own opinion, but makes sense.
It's such a rabbit hole we could drive ourselves nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Really,
then you throw out enough disinformation, and it's
right.
enough to confuse people, and that we'll never know. Same with the aliens or unidentified flying objects or whatever you want to call them.
Speaking of that, I need to get this straight. So the one you saw, it was like a rectangle with 3 lights on the bottom. That's what I pictured when you explained it.
When I first saw it, the first thing that came to my mind with the way the lights were lined up was almost like the Arizona lights, the truck, like that's what
Oh,
it had to be. Now, I only saw, I mean, as far as I know, it could have been just one straight piece with 3 lights. Like imagine this light, light, and a light.
right.
But in my mind, I was saying, okay, there's got to be another 2 lights to finish the triangle if there was a triangle. Um, that's that's where my mind went, and still continues to stay. Was it a triangular device or aircraft, or was it just more along the lines of like the Tic Tac with 3 lights on it?
Yeah,
Um,
because they've reported a square rectangle one, kind of like long and thin with lights on the bottom, like you described. And of course, you got your cigar ones, which I saw one of those and lost time. You didn't lose time, right?
no, we didn't even have any. There was no electrical interference with the TV, not the TV,
Radio.
the car, the radio, nothing. I mean, we weren't there probably, but 15 or 20 seconds at that intersection until we made the turn. But that 15 or 20 seconds just felt like forever when I'm looking at what I don't know.
Right.
And then we made that turn, and I've never seen anything like it again.
I've seen pictures of those or videos when people will see a rectangle one. They're pretty thick and they're long and thin and they have lights on the bottom. So I'm
And
thinking that's probably what it was.
the believer in me says, okay, I mean that makes sense. Let's hide in a cloud bank where nothing can see us. They don't need. Who knows what they if they have any type of radar or what their propulsion systems are or whatever, but they can hide in that bank. They know that most aircraft that we have aren't going to fly through something like that, especially at that low of a level of altitude, because at that point they're almost, I would think, flying blind, basing their flight off of our current technology. So they're going to hang out in that cloud bank to do whatever they're doing, and they're perfectly hidden. It thinned out just perfectly above me. What the hell did I just see?
Right. It's like it's so weird when you do see something because you're sitting there going, what am I looking at? It takes a minute for
Absolutely.
your brain to comprehend anything weird. Like even the first time I saw a moose, I thought it was a horse. You know what I mean? My brain wouldn't work. So it's just anything that your brain isn't used to seeing or whatever, it takes a minute to comprehend what you're looking at. And then,
Yeah, I mean, and there is still, because it's been, I'll say, 2 now. I've been working here for 2 years, so I mean, we're going on like 3-ish years, and nothing that I've looked at in the sky there's nothing that I can think of. I mean, I even thought, okay, maybe something is reflecting off of the interior of the car, but I mean, it was up. Like I literally had to lean. I mean, I had my head leaning against the side window, looking up. It was not a reflection of anything. I'm
mhm.
just I saw a UFO.
Yep, I've
I'm gonna
learned
take
that,
it as a
yeah, you can see them. I forget, I think it was Dave Politis was saying you could use night vision and see them better.
I have
Oh,
seen plenty of that where people are able to record on like real night vision.
hmm
Well, I've seen it on the documentaries on TikTok, and you see plenty of stuff flying around. I have seen people put up videos and be like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And you can tell it's a flight of geese. You can those of us that know what geese look like flying during the day, it's we're picking up the reflection of the ambient light on the bellies of the geese as they're flying. I'm like, well, if you had audio with that, you could tell because if you listen quiet enough, you can hear them, especially if they're snow geese. But then you just see these other things just going in a straight line, and all of a sudden they veer to the left or to the right.
yeah.
I'm like, what?
You
What
can
the
really
hell
see
was?
them with night vision. They're all over the place. I'm not quite sure what those are. So,
I wish I had the money to get night vision goggles. Um, I have only played with them one time, and they were very briefly when I was in the fire department in Missouri. We were doing a landing operations with the local air medical helicopter, and he let us try on their NVGs, and I put those on, and like the entire world just lit up. You could see stars that I didn't even realize were out there. I said, "Oh, what could I see at night?" Well,
hmm
what would happen if I walked away with these? He said, "Oh, you'd be after for a lot of money."
be a
He
little
said
bit of trouble.
the government. He said he was in the military. He was over in Iraq, and he said at some point, someone where they had lost an entire crate of the night vision goggles, and they had
Mhm.
lost a crate of weapons, and the government could care less about the guns. They wanted the night vision goggles because they knew that it gave the enemy such a I don't want to say superiority, but enhance their abilities to attack
Yeah,
the U.S. soldiers. And I'm like, so they're more worried about those. He said, absolutely. He said, so yeah, if I could get a hold of something like that, if I had the money, I would. I would sit out on my porch nightly.
I got a cheap pair off of Amazon. You can see stuff. And then I was using my rifle scope. We had a night vision one of those, and I was using it. So you can see stuff. But the ones
I
on
think
Amazon, I think I paid 140 for them, and you can see
might have to look into that. Me and Amazon have quite an affair going on. So
same. I got problems. I get sad and go shopping. So it's awful. But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all those encounters. I thought that was really cool for
thank
you
you. I
to do that.
appreciate it.
Do you have any you said you had a YouTube. Do you want to share any links or anything? Your places?
Um, I guess I mean, you can put my name in like the comment section there or whatever. I
Mhm.
don't know how to send it to you while I'm on the camera. I can send it to you then. But if they look up my name, um, they should be able to find. I've only got 4 videos on there. One's a fire video, 2 are for memorial to my dad, and then the Culps Hill thing.
I'll put links under this video when I upload it.
Okay.
Um, or do you have a Facebook page or anything, or just the YouTube?
I've got Facebook, but I don't post anything because if I post the wrong things, I got to worry about getting fired. Since
Oh yeah,
I have a
that's
local government job, so I have to be very careful about what I say on. I mean, this kind of stuff they're not going to fire me for, but if I say the wrong political thing,
oh Lord, not politics. Um, People are crazy about that stuff. But I do appreciate you coming on and sharing everything. Thanks for taking the
yeah,
time.
thanks for having me. I
Appreciate it.
appreciate it.
I
I
appreciate
know I had a hard time finding. I don't want to say a credible. Everything that I found so far, there's a lot of Bigfoot stuff, and I'm like, I want to tell my paranormal stuff. To me, since that actually happened to me, it's more, it's a better story. And I'm like, I got to find someone. That's why I posted on there. And you were like, "Hmm."
Yeah, because I have paranormal stuff. I've told my stories, at the beginning, just trying to get people to come out. And then uh, I even had somebody finally come on my show, Ashes, and he was seeing the same shadow people I saw when I was little that had the alien shaped heads, and I was tickled to death that somebody else saw them. So that's why I do this, because you don't know who you might be helping, you know,
And
by
that's how
sharing your encounters.
that's what Dano has said. He's like, thanks for getting on and telling me the stories. I'm like, I don't have a problem. I'm not ashamed of what my grandparents or grandmother told me, or
Mm-mm.
um, my paranormal stuff with the UFO. I'm not ashamed about it. I know I'm not crazy. I know what I saw is what I saw.
Yeah.
Um, it's like if it's some of these stories I've heard people say, boy, I heard one the other day. I don't know how the host could keep a straight face with that one, but
You can tell me about it in just a second. I'm gonna stop recording. But thanks
yeah, yeah.
everybody for being here, and thank you, Jason, for coming on.
You're
And I'll see
welcome.
you
Thank you.
on the next one.